President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was sworn in yesterday, after which he gave an inaugural speech, the caption of which was "The Nigerian Ideal." It was a far-ranging speech, and it touched on very many areas of importance to our life. We've been speaking about a couple of them, but our guest is Mr. Dumebi Kachikwu, former presidential candidate, African Democratic Congress. He's a businessman, and so I imagine that he would be, quite interested in the notion of the speech that says that Tinubu's administration shall be remodeling our economy to bring about growth and development through job creation. Surely that was a positive note for most business people.
Yes, I believe that our president is in the right direction. I believe that he's going to be pro-business. His government is going to be business-friendly. In creating jobs, he needs the support and partnership with the private sector. He needs to understand what's ailing the private sector. He needs to understand where the APC government failed in the last 8 years, especially in the area of CBN policies and what have you. He needs to know what to do. We cannot speak of a monofocal economy. Continue to speak about monofocal economy year in, year out, and do nothing about it. Agriculture is a good direction to go to. I expect to see that this government starts investing in agro-processing parks in every senatorial district across the country. I expect to see a farm-to-fork model, looking at all the different verticals in the agricultural sector. I expect that this government will immediately put a stop to the export of raw materials, solid minerals, and what have you out of Nigeria, and ensure that we have the processing power for every single thing. Any investor interested in our minerals should come and invest in Nigeria, process those minerals locally and export, thereby creating more jobs and impacting on our local economy. I expect that the president should understand that our economy begins from our educational sector. We need to refocus, revamp, and re-envision our educational sector. We need to plan for the next 50 to 100 years of our educational sector. What kind of education do we envisage for our youths in this century? We need to be able to compete effectively all over the world. The world has become a global village. The world is virtual now. From the comfort of your home, you can interact and do business with people all over the world. That means we must teach our kids differently from what they currently know now. Our education system is in a shambolic state right now, and I expect that he should be able to do something about that immediately. The ports are the first point of inflation in Nigeria. The corruption at our ports. You imagine a situation where you bring in a container and you have to pay almost 5 million naira to clear a 20-foot container. It doesn't matter what's in that container. Any business person will transfer that cost to the market. And that is what Buhari's government failed to understand. So if it costs you 5 million naira to clear a container with the attendant corruption costs in there, imagine what that does to the economy. The cost, we realized that we had to liberalize AGO diesel, and we're paying as much as 700 or 750 naira for diesel, which is affecting most businesses. Now, we expect that Dangote's refinery in July, like he said, should come on stream, and that will cushion the impact. So even though government has said today, yes, that they are removing subsidy, we know that the impact of that subsidy will not last more than 2, 3, 4 months before we see the cost of our white products reduce in Nigeria. Okay, so we must all understand that this government must then take the savings in that subsidy and use that for infrastructural, to increase our infrastructure across the country, especially where it concerns transportation, especially where it concerns housing, education. This government must use the savings in the right direction so that poor Nigerians benefit from this. it no longer makes sense for us to be able to continue to line the pockets of a few. Now, in speaking to this subsidy, we must understand that when government takes away subsidy, that it's not necessarily the best decision. What it means is that our law enforcement agencies have failed in tracking down those who have abused the subsidy scheme. What I expect this president to do is to say, I have suspended subsidy, and while I suspend subsidy, I will get our security agencies to investigate the abuse in that scheme, come up with processes and policies that ensure that that abuse will no longer be there, so that no matter what the market decides, where it settles at, government must still look for a way to subsidize petroleum products, especially where the masses are concerned. It's going to take a long time before our mass transit schemes come in place, before we have a rail network across the country, before we liberalize the system up to the point where aviation prices or price of aviation products come down so that all Nigerians can benefit. So government must still look at a way of subsidizing this system. But for now, I support the suspension of subsidy until we get a handle of what has been going on there. Track down those who have benefited from this, who have stolen from our country, recover those monies, prosecute those people, and then see how we can make that system better for all Nigerians. But like I said earlier on, this government will be pro-friendly. I expect that this government will be pro-friendly. I must say to the opposition that what you must be doing, what we must be doing now as opposition is to ensure that we have our own clear-cut blueprints, that we are a shadow government, so that when government is getting it right, we can say government is getting it right. When government is getting it wrong, we can tell government, hey, this is what you need to be doing. But if you don't have a plan of your own, when the government is getting it wrong, you cannot say anything. It's not enough for you to say, oh, this government got it wrong. We must tell government, you got it wrong, but this is what you ought to do to fix this problem. And that's what I expect that we as opposition should be doing. Opposition should not be in the business of going all over town and going to the back rooms and looking for how to get appointments in this government. No. It's not about getting appointments in this government. It's about being a voice, an opposing voice to government views, understanding that ultimately it's about Nigeria. So if government gets it right, we all get it right. If government gets it wrong, we are able to say, hey, government, hey, look at this. This is what you need to do. That is what I expect from a viral opposition now. Indeed.
You spoke about security because there's very little that can be done without security. And perhaps it's not surprising that President Tinubu did say that security would take a top priority in his administration. And then specifically, he says there will be reforms in the security doctrine and its architecture. I wonder, give me your interpretation of that, if you will. Reforms, we imagine, are necessary, but not just in the doctrine of security, but also in its architecture.
Okay, we all understand that security failed from the body language of the last president. The body language of the president is the most important thing in the fight against insecurity in the land. So if we have a president who is decidedly sure, who understands where he's going and what he wants to do, and who gives effect to that in his instructions to his military commanders, will see an improvement. Our last president seemed to feel that a section of the country was higher than the other parts of the country. Our last president believed that that his kith and kin all over the world were welcome into this country, irrespective of their agenda for Nigeria. Nigerians welcome everyone into Nigeria. We are a happy people, we are a welcoming people. But he didn't care that these people came here for a land grab, and they came here because they believe that our brother is there and will do anything, will rape, maim, plunder. And nothing ever happened. I remember when the president said anyone with an AK-47 will be arrested, prosecuted, and what have you. And he said that, and we saw an uptick. We saw increased killings, and nothing really happened. So we expect that this president will fund the military more. What happened with the former president is that, yes, whenever a document or a request gets to him, he approves immediately. But because of the synergy between the NSA, the Minister of Defense, and the military forces, because the synergy was non-existent, we saw it play out in the theater of operations. And now we expect that things will be done differently now. I expect that not only will our military be better funded, but that there's going to be better synergy. We are watching keenly to see who the NSA will be, who the service chiefs will be, who the Minister of Defense will be, but better still, what connects them and how they work together. We must never have a situation like we had in the last administration where all these agencies of government were working disparately. There seemed to be confusion. We must not have that. And we must upgrade our architecture. If we take the DSS, for example, the #1 intelligence gathering agency of government, seeing the way, the analog manner in which they operate today, I mean, they are doing a yeoman's job, but we must support them with more funds so that they're able to get equipment relevant for today. We must ensure that our military are not just buying them armaments, but that they have the OPEX to be able to buy diesel. The last government bought a lot of equipment, but where was the OPEX? Where was the money to buy diesel? Imagine what happened with the Kaduna train attack, where you probably have 12 sorties a day in patrolling that area. Because these people probably lacked resources, they lacked money to fuel their planes, they have to reduce the number of sorties they do. And these terrorists know, they can see that these guys pass here every 5 hours. So they know they have a 5-hour window in which to operate. So government must fund, not only buy equipment, but our OPEX must be assured to these people. We must no longer see the videos of our military people crying that they don't have water, they don't have food. That must not happen. In a time of war, all Nigerians must come together. Beyond government, our private sector, our billionaires, our Dangotes, Tony Elumelu's, Dijim Obias, everyone must come together the same way they came together and raised funds for the CBN governor or with the CBN governor to tackle COVID. They must come together immediately, not tomorrow, yesterday, to start raising funds for our military to prosecute this war. Nigeria is at war. We must all get behind our military and support our military to take on the threat that faces our country. I want to speak on the issue of the Southeast. These are people who feel totally disenchanted. They feel that the last election was stolen from them. They feel that the last government did everything to subdue them and take away their rights. They feel that they are not treated like they have a stake in the Nigerian state. Some right, some wrong. Some of their feelings right and some of their feelings wrong. President Tinubu must immediately tackle this. He must deal with the real leaders of the Southeasterners. He must deal with their business and community leaders, not the so-called political leaders who come just to benefit themselves. He must bring them to a round table. He must assure them that the Nigerian project needs them, that they are a part of this project. He must let them understand that all the notions that people have had that an Igbo man cannot be president of Nigeria, an Igbo man cannot be minister of FCT, an Igbo man cannot hold this position or that position, that those things hold no water in his government. He must let them understand that anybody who is willing and able to put in the time, the hard work necessary, will thrive in his government. He must let them know that his government is a government of meritocracy. He must sell to them that notion that the hard work they put in every part of the country that that hard work will pay off. That nobody will ever say to them anymore that we'll send you into the ocean in Lagos. That nobody will say to them anymore that if you don't support our candidate, that will chase you out of this place. Things were done that were not right, but the president now sits in the highest office of the land, and that is the office of father of the nation. And he must show that he's a father to all Nigerians in how he deals with these people. We have to look at the issue of Nnamdi Kanu. I have said that the court processes must be respected. Every court ruling must be respected. Whatever the court's rule must be given effect to. I don't believe so much in a political solution. I believe in a legal solution, because for those who speak about a political solution to this, I tell you this. The children of all those who have lost their lives to so-called IPOB or ESN or what have you, they are potential threats to the Nigerian nation tomorrow if we fail to do what is right to bring to book all those who killed their family members. So let the law take its course. Let the judiciary be given the structure, the enabling environment to do what is right. If Nnamdi Kanu has no hand whatsoever in any of that, he should be set free immediately. Where the courts have ruled that he should be set free, the government must not come to any convoluted process to continue to keep him in detention. That continues to aggravate these people, because they say to themselves, we have a situation where other people have been released, where the courts have ruled that they should be released. Why do you keep this man there? Because you believe that he's an Igbo man, and because in Nigeria the Igbos have no say. No. The president, the father of the nation, must now be a father to all. His body language, his action, his words will speak a lot to this. And I honestly believe that he will do the right thing.
Indeed. And, there will be many that will be saying that that concept is very well placed, because it's almost like preaching to the converted as far as Bola Ahmed Tinubu is concerned. He has a track record of what you advised, which is that, look, it's about competency. It's not about anything else. And as the father of all, you know, that's the pool for you. You can pick from that whole pool. He has indicated that in the past, so I imagine that a lot of people are optimistic that there's nothing, he won't change as a result of that. But let's look at agriculture. And one would have been surprised if any Nigerian president in an inaugural speech or any important speech wouldn't be talking about agriculture, because we are an agrarian people. Now, he was saying, and he said in his speech that we had to become an agricultural hub, and there had to be the organization of it such that value-added chains would be in place. I imagine, my mind just went, when I heard that, my mind just went to the situation in the Ivory Coast where, as you know, cocoa and expatriates or foreigners coming, taking the cocoa, going to process it, or the Nestles of this world, and what was bought for maybe 1 naira, so to speak, is able to be sold for 5,000 naira, simply because it is a luxury product. That kind of a thing, I imagine, was the kind of thing Tinubu had in mind when he was talking about this agricultural hub, and it would include value-added chains. Is that the concept that you have too?
Yes, I think what he gave an overview of what he wants to do there, right? In terms of how we all choose to interpret it, it will be different to everyone. But whoever he appoints as Minister of Agriculture will then show all Nigerians what he intends to do with the agricultural sector. When we speak about the subsets of that sector or about agricultural hubs, we understand that our greatest challenge in Nigeria today is from the farm to the fork, right? That there's a huge disconnect with what happens there. We know that our transport system has failed. We know that our road infrastructure is failing. We also understand that they don't have enough financing there. We know that they don't have enough mechanization in the farms there. We know that there's not enough processing. There's not enough storage. And what people must do now is to invest in those areas. But can you invest in those areas when our banks don't understand the importance of the agricultural sector and not giving enough funding? And when the CBN and NISAL are funding cronies and not funding the real people in that sector, or they don't have a coherent plan that ensures that that sector is the mainstay of our economy. When you fly across Nigeria and you look down and you look at the arable land, our virgin land, I mean, it saddens you to think of our huge potential. We can feed Africa. We can feed the world from Nigeria. But we just need to have the right people to man that sector, the right people who understand that that sector can be the mainstay of our economy, that that sector can employ tens of millions of Nigerians and even foreigners. But if you have the wrong people in that sector, we will never get anything done. So the president might have the right idea, but he puts the wrong person there, and nothing is done with that sector. So in the whole value chain, we need people who can articulate a policy and who can tie in that policy to our fiscal policies and all other policies that ensure that all Nigerians key into that so that we can start benefiting. Farmers in America, some of the richest people in America. Why? Because government's policies are very clear there. They feed the nation. They are the anchor of the economy. And they create valuable jobs. Those are the jobs we must create. And guess what? If we tackle the agricultural sector properly, the rural to urban migration that threatens to destroy most of our states will stop. People are migrating daily from the rural areas to Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and the cities that have good infrastructure that present potential to them. But if agriculture were to be working, we'll have better cities, new cities. We will have new hubs that create jobs for people across the country. There will not be any need for people who are in, say, I come from Delta State, who are in Onchubo or Iseluku or Gwashiku, Asaba or Agbo or Patani and all those places to start saying they want to go to Port Harcourt or they want to come to Abuja or to Lagos because they have good paying jobs there. That is why that sector is key. The president's handlers, his advisors must ensure that they articulate a policy. I didn't hear him speak about tourism.
Well, I'm afraid we've run out of time, Mr. Kachikwu. There's so very much. You're right. I'm so sorry about that. You didn't get there. But we're going to have to leave it here for now. And hopefully you'll be able to, make time for us again when we have another conversation. But this morning, I want to thank you very much for making time for us, Mr. Dumebi Kachikwu, former presidential candidate of African Democratic Congress. Thank you very much for your time. Okay, that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.